In this video, we're going to cover data management. As you progress into field style matches and even NRL hunter style matches, your ability to find, range, and engage is going to be what sets you apart from, just good shooters. Additionally, your problem solving. But with that, we don't have the time necessarily to be deliberate with our engagements on some stages or given those ranges prior. So we got to be able to pull that data under the clock and on time. So there's a couple different ways to pull data. I'll progress into from the kind of the easiest and most common thing into like some more advanced things to consider. So first thing, we got to know how far it is. With that, these are some SIG 3K range finding binos. There are multiple other binos out there. There's Vortex, there's other SIG models, there's Leicas, there's Swaros, there's Vectronics. There's a bunch of different models and things out there. Every single one is going to offer you kind of a different level of performance, whether it be, so these have the AB light, they don't have the full AB in them, whether it be geoballistics or different, different ballistic solver other than applied ballistics, or even just like a Plurf 25 Charlie torch is a set base power. I'm pretty sure it's like a four power, and you can range. But also the performance of those rangefinders and their capability is going to be determined by other features that they have. So if it's really snowy or windy, or sorry, not windy, but rainy, you may have issues bouncing that rangefinder off. I've had it to where if it's pouring down snow, I can't get a range because it's bouncing that off. So just look at all your different rangefinders, find out what's going to work for you. I got these honestly because I could afford them. If I could do different, I would have something that has the full internal solver, but I found an answer for dealing with that, which I'll show you guys in this video. So we got to know how far it is. Next thing we got to do is we got to have the data. The simplest, easiest form is just DA cards or dope cards. The DA, where that comes from is if you look into your Kestrel, it's density altitude. Density altitude is a lot of things can combine to give you a relative number. So for example, yesterday I was shooting this 45 degrees here in the Midwest, and my DA was negative 74. So I just call that 0. I would then make a DA card for plus 2,000. So say the temperature increases and it gets a lot warmer, just 30, 40 degree swing between morning and afternoon, my DA is going to go up, and so my data is going to change. Inversely, if my DA goes down, my data can change. So what I like to do is I have DA cards built on my environment and my shooting conditions that allow me to change with the temperature. From there, another very common thing is going to be your Kestrel. Having a Kestrel is vital because you can build and pull all the information from the Kestrel into a more consumable means of data. But this is kind of slow and very deliberate depending on what you're doing for your stage. So if you don't have the time, so a lot of team sniper matches or NRL hunter matches and things like that, you don't have the time to sit there and pull out your Kestrel and get a very deliberate engagement from that data. Or you might. It just all depends on the stage or the shooting situation. You may not have the chance to do it, but you may have it. So you might want that available. But regardless, that's what's going to be our baseline for pulling really good data into something that's not near as good, to where we're rounding numbers off and your tolerance is starting to stack on a different system. You can start with a good base based on your profile that you built and things like and everything in here. But I'll typically have this on me. This is a tier 1 concealed Kydex pouch. I took that off. It's got like a shock cord retention, but I'll typically have this on me somewhere, like on my belt or in my pack, so I can access it should I need to. But this is kind of like, if I go PAC, primary alternate contingency, this is kind of C for most engagements for me. Another one that we have, this is a Garmin 701. There are new different solvers out there nowadays, but this is a 701, but it has applied ballistics in it, and you can pull data from here. So this is a good kind of bridge between your DA card, which is just raw data, and something as good of a solver as a Kestrel 5700. This kind of feeds that middle ground because it still takes into account for humidity and environmentals and temperature changes, and then puts out data for you. What I found is, so these binos have the internal light, so it goes out to 800 yards or 710 meters and 715 meters. But what I found is if I link this to my 701, I can pull pretty good data from that. The solver in here is pretty good and quick for that short range stuff, but as I shoot past that distance, I'm going to want something that's going to pull better data so that I'll get off the 701. Every time I tried using it with the Kestrel, it would just drop. So just had some issues with that. But if I had something that had the AB Elite in here, then I could forego the 701 as my alternate and just use these as primary, and then DA cards as alternate, and then contingency Kestrel. But so these are just some options on different ways to pull data, and then I'm going to bring you guys in and do a little bit more deliberate and case use information based on why you'd want something versus something else. But you got to have a range. This is a Eberly stock Recon Bino harness. It's been great for me, but you got to have a range, and then you got to have data. So whether that be DA cards on an arm board, a 701 on your wrist, a Kestrel 5700, whatever you're doing, you got to be able to pull that data. So I'm going to bring you guys in, and I'm going to talk some other techniques that I use and where to use them. So now I'm going to get into the more refined information for data management. And we're going to start with the most simplistic and get more into like some stuff that's harder to deal with. So the most simplistic way for data management is 100% going to be just getting your range from range finding binos or other rangefinder and going to a DA card. Now a DA card is a data card that is changing with the density altitude. What density altitude is it's a relative number of combined environmental factors to give you changes that you can work off of in the environment. For example, yesterday when I went and shot, the DA was negative 74, so it's probably about 0. What I'll do is I'll make a DA card for that environment, so we'll say 0. I'll make one for negative 2,000, and I'll make one for plus 2,000. What that allows me to do is if the temperature drops, I have data that's going to line up, and if the temperature increases or other environmentals change and it increases, I have data that's going to line up. And how I manage that is in my QB sleeve. Now you'll notice that I don't have my DA card or my data card right here as the first thing. Reason being is because I primarily, P for me is pulling my information off of my Mars and my weapons mounted rangefinder. Alternate is going to a DA card. If this was my primary, it would 100% be filling up this space, but for me, it's not, so it goes into the secondary. That's what I do is when I open this up, I'll try and get this to focus for you guys. When I open this up, here's all my ranges and all my data. So I'll see over here, I have my AXSR 308, my DA is 0, and my ammo and lot information is up here. From there, sorry, I want you guys to be able to see this. There we go. All right, from there, I go into my ranges. I broke this one down from in 100 meter increment brackets and then internally 10 meter increments. The reason I did that is because for most typical engagements and short action stuff, this goes all the way out to 1,000. I don't necessarily need more information than that. If I go here to like a Magnum to where I have further engagements, I will then put 20 meter increments. That way I can reach out to further distances as I push out. But I don't have that requirement typically. So what I'll do is something like this. And the reason I went with 10s is because now as I pull information from a Kestrel and add it to this system here, I'm losing tolerance. If I can add a little bit of tolerance back by going into more refined data, I'm going to do so. But here, you go across, it breaks down to range. So say it's 650, I got 600, I go down to 50, my hold is 5.7, and then that is my hold. Some additional information I have on mine is my speed drop number is 2, my quick wind is 4, my spin drift for this bracket is 0.1, for this bracket 0.2, for this bracket 0.3, and I know this is getting out to 0.4 out in this area. So that's the information that I have on here. Um, what my card looks like is this is what makes sense to me. Put the information on there that makes sense to you guys. If this doesn't make sense to you, then change it up and add different information. But it's got to be something that you can recall on the fly. When I go to DA card, I look at it as my primary is rangefinder. I need to have this information available to me without having to add any bandwidth to it to problem solve. If I had this in 25 or 50 meter increments and I look over here and it goes 600, 650 and it's 635, now I'm trying to bracket that information and say it's a tight target. I could err on the wrong side and then that's a drop shot. But if it's 635, I look at here, 5.3, 5.5. I know my hold is 5.4 and I just send it. So that's how I like to do it, but that makes sense to me. So if that works for you guys, do it. If not, find whatever works for you. But that's the premise of what a DA card is. And so should I need to change my density altitude, what I'll do is I'll have multiple ones in here. So say this is for 2000. I would then pull this out and replace it to where I have better information. And that's why I have something like this to where if I filled out the rest of them, I'd have all those lined up with the same information and they would be stacked into my QV sleeve. I can change in a moment's notice. So that is DA card, and that's like the most simplistic form of pulling data. Now getting into other systems, if you have good range finding binos, I 100% recommend having your data pulled from there. Now these are the lights, and so what I had to do is I had to link them to another device that gives me more refined data. So I use a 701. What I found is the link between the 701 and the binos tends to be a little bit better than the link between the binos and the Kestrel. It doesn't drop it near as much, and I have better returns. Typically, I'm 7 or 8 out of 10 on my ranges to returns between this system, and the return is anywhere from 4 to 5 seconds, sometimes 6 seconds. But what I like about that is when I have this on my wrist, say I range a target, now what I have is that last range is available to me on my 701. Should I pack my binos up, snap a range, I get it, put them back away, and get ready for my engagement and other things. And I'm crap, what was the hold for that? I can look back here and I can see, 892, 10.8. That's my hold. I got some wind or spin, whatever other information I need is there. I can reference that. So that is, another way of doing it. If you don't have the binos that perform, but nowadays the ability to have the full ballistic solver and binos and have them affordable is pretty good. So I 100% recommend spending the extra money to get the better solver. That way you can eliminate this system. But additionally, I always have my Kestrel. Like I covered, my P for information is weapons mounted rangefinder with data. Alternate is going to always be a DA card and just getting to that number. And then I always have my Kestrel available to me. Whether if I feel like I need it, it will be on my belt. I have the Tier 1 concealed that will just go on my belt here. But if I don't need it, it'll be in my pack. But I always have the ability to get to it should I want to. So that's kind of C for me. But I'm going to go into more detail on DA cards specifically and ways to use it to your advantage outside of just pulling straight data. So another reason that I like to have the DA card set up how I do is typically there could be situations to where you want to be able to annotate ranges or information on here that if you didn't have all this information, you want to be able to do so. What I mean by that is, for example, say I'm on a stage and it's not my turn to shoot. I'm the secondary shooter, primary shooter sitting there shooting, what I can do is I can find work. I can find work by ranging my targets, getting wind calls and things like that, and be ready for when it is my time to shoot. We're not waiting on me to range or pull information. I'm just shooting as fast as I can. So what I'll do is I'll have my DA card open, and I'll always keep some Sharpies in this pocket here. So I'll pull these Sharpies out, or whatever color I need, or whatever, and I'll start annotating things. So for example, say I sit there and I range something, and I'm starting to build my data card for my engagement, and I'll show you what that looks like here. All right, so I'm sitting there and I'm ranging. I range one at 340, range one at 570, and I range one at 720. All right, so then when it's my time to shoot and I'm ready for my engagements, I come over here, I just reference that quickly. 1.4, 4.4, 7.0. And I already annotated on here where my engagements are going to be. So I don't have to sit there and filter through all this information. I can just quickly find it and get my information. Another way that works really well is say you guys are in a situation to where one shooter has indicated something and another shooter has indicated something else. What I mean by that is, okay, I'm shooter one, and for all of this stuff, shooter one's going to be red. I can sit there and go through here and look, I got 330. I range one at 550, range one at 630, one at 670. All right, I put that away, and I'm sitting there and I range the next ones: 420, 470, 520, 650. And so then now what I've done is I built a little bit more refined range card to when we start making engagements, we can look at this and quickly know who's shooting what. So as shooter one, I know that I'm shooting 330, 550, 630, 670. Shooter two is shooting 420, 470, 520, and 550 or 650. So that's a quick way to use this DA card more than just pulling data. You can also just keep track of what you're doing and what's going on the stage. And then what you can do is you can sit here and, yep, I got that one, 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 got that one. And then we can go back there and say, what are we missing? All right, we're missing this engagement, we're missing that engagement. And then you can zone in on where they are as far as ranging and OB them and get the targets back, make my engagement. All right, we're clean, we're good, we can bounce. So that's another way to use the DA card more than just pulling data. So after I've pulled that data, what I'll do is always keep some alcohol wipes. I keep other things in here as well, but I'll take some alcohol pads. I'll clean this off. And what that does is it sets me up for the next one, and I got a clean slate. You can see I didn't do it up here, and that is kind of permanent on there, so I just kind of work through it. But that's a way of cleaning that up, and now I'm ready for the next one. Additionally, what you guys can do, just another way that I like the system as well, is now I can have two different forms of data in here. I could have my partner's data up here as well. If you have the chance for any team matches, if you have the chance to shoot the same data, 100% do it. Shoot the same guns, same ammo, and everything. It just cleans up a lot of information. But for this example, one guy's shooting a Magnum, one guy's shooting a short action, and now I have those separated, and I can reference that information. And say shooter one is the Magnum, I can make all my annotations on this piece. Shooter two is down here, make my annotations, and then when we go and make our engagements, we have good information. By doing this system and having my data come from my rangefinder, what I do is I clean up this workspace. On that workspace, this is a great time to use things like this. These are just like kind of hotel plastic cards you get on Amazon for cheap. I put some Velcro on the back of it, and I just put blue painter's tape on the front for making notes, and then I can take notes on this. So when you're doing your stage planning, and I'm sitting there and I'm planning for a stage, I can do things like, okay, we got to shoot pistol first, and say there's 10 of them. Okay, that's the first thing that has to happen on this stage. Next, I got shooter one. He's shooting IPSC, and then shooter two is shooting squares. He has 5 and he has 10. All right. So then now, at any moment, because this target information is something that we want to devote to memory if we can, but we don't want to let it impede on our bandwidth to make decisions. So if we can transfer it over here to something like this, that way I can reference this and not have to use it when I'm, use that bandwidth to think about things that I'm doing, I'll do so. Now, when we go up to the stage, I know, because it could be a lot very complex. We could be doing 1 to 2 minutes of work prior to even shooting. And so when we get there, I need to know what the heck's going on. We know that we got to shoot all 10 pistols. Okay, so we'll shoot 10 pistols and we're good to go. And then that's complete. And I'll have the stick sitting on here like this. Then we get down and shoot and be like, hey, you're looking for IP6. So I tell shooter one, he's looking for IP6. I'm shooter two, I'm looking for squares. As we go through, say the squares are pretty clustered up and I shoot 4 or 5, or say I shoot 5 of them real quick. All right, I know that I shot 5 squares. I can talk to my partner. Hey, how many IP6 did you shoot? He said, I shot 3. So I know that he has 2 left and I have 5 left. We can keep OBing, looking around. Yep, got 2 more. Shot 2 more. He shot 1 more. Okay, what are we looking for? 1 more IPSC and 3 more squares. Shoot 1 more IPSC, and then we know that we left three squares out there as we move along. So this is another way to add information. And then again, whether you're doing this for work or professionally, I can come in here and I can write in TRPs. All right, so then now I have TRP information available to me. So when I get down, I know, the house is TRP1 and the creek is TRP2. I know what those distances are, and I can make some JD RET engagements based off of the TRPs that I have available to me. So that's just another way on how a DA card can benefit you. So use it in more ways than just pulling data. Let's start getting pretty intricate on how we're going to use the data to our advantage. And anytime that you can free up your mind and your bandwidth to make decisions, do so. And this is an easy way to do that by adding in the decision making on data can go here, and then you can make decisions elsewhere more efficiently. Again, I really like this Everly Stock Recon Bino harness. I keep things organized. I got spare batteries in here for other devices and my binos and things like that, a lens cloth, some mag carriers, and what have you. But a lot of guys, if a Kestrel is going to be pretty heavy, guys will put a Kestrel here. That way it's more accessible, but find out whatever works for you and what you need. So that's going to be it for going over data management. Some things I want to make sure that you guys have is, one, always have a backup to electronic data with hard data. I 100% recommend it. And as I've shown, you can use it in ways, even though it's not your primary data form, you can use it in ways to benefit you on an engagement. Secondly is, if you are going to have multiple devices available to you, like I have here, rangefinding binos, 701, 5700, Mars, that's a lot of stuff. Take the time to get the data true. Go through your process, make sure the data is tracking. And if it is not tracking somewhere, find out which one is reliable and know that that's your constant. So if I went off the Kestrel and it's rock solid at distance, truing distance, it's on the money. And then I start seeing the 701 creep at 850, or my binos start creeping at 850. I just know internally, like, my shit's good out to 850. And then if I'm pulling off of my 701 and I range it for 920, I know I need to add a tenth instead of what it's telling me. So things like that. So that's where really learning your system. And then on your DA card, put on there what makes sense to you. What I would say is a simple one will get you a lot of ways, or get you to a lot of places and help you in a lot of ways, but it's got to make sense to you. Don't do it this way because that person's doing it, or do it this way because this is how I'm doing it. Do what makes sense to you. But on that, as you refine your information and get better on your skills and things like that, your information may change on your DA card. You may use it a certain way, and then, well, heck, I don't need that information. I could replace it with this. So then go ahead and do that. As you progress as shooters, let's make improvements, let's make changes, and increase our lethality all the way across the board. So that's going to be the end of this video. Additionally, we just released some merchandise, so the link to that merchandise will be listed below in the YouTube in the comment section on YouTube, and then also on our Instagram page where most of our information comes from. There is a link in there to go in there and purchase shirts. So I appreciate it, and thanks for watching.